Welcome to the Fire Rescue Wellness Podcast Spotlight, where we revisit take-home messages and shine a light on previous FRW podcasts in 10 minutes or less. I'm Lex, AZ's right and left-hand woman, and I churn out these mini episodes for her. Let's go.
But Katie, can you tell us what actually is HIIT training, and then how might it relate to firefighter fitness?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of HIIT training. In its basic terms, it's any form of exercise that involves short periods of really high intensity. Think on a scale of 1 to 10, about a 9 or a 10. Intensity-wise, interspersed with periods of really low intensity or complete rest. So in the lab, for my research, a lot of times that looks like working hard for 1 minute, getting your heart rate up, you're breathing heavy, you're working hard, and then 1 minute of complete rest, and we'll repeat that 10 times. And so this is a really time-efficient way to exercise. It's really, if you think about it, only 10 minutes of actual high-intensity work. If we add in a warm-up and a cool-down, we're looking at a 20-minute workout tops. Let's see, with that, it's time efficient. We can modify it lots of different ways. And what we see in the research, it's a really, really good way to drive your VO2, improve your fitness levels, in that short amount of exercise time.
So especially with a firefighter who might be on duty and there isn't a lot of time. And so one of the excuses we might tell ourselves is we don't have time to train. This is really time efficient. And so is there a particular, so we started talking about HIIT training without defining it. That's my fault. High intensity interval training. Is there a heart rate or is there a metric that we're aiming for, Katie, to get to be able to classify it as high intensity interval training?
There's a few ways we can do it. In the lab, I would measure your VO2 and we would try to get you to a level at a certain percentage of that. That's not realistic for the average person to go do. We're not measuring that just in day to day. So you can do a heart rate. The tricky part about heart rate, as we get, even when we're starting exercise, but as we get more fit, it's going to take a little while for our heart rate to catch up. And so those first few sets, you might feel like you're working really hard, but your heart rate maybe won't get up as high as you think it needs to get to. So we could calculate and say you need to reach 90% of your age-predicted heart rate max. But the way I like to do it myself, that's a little bit better, in my opinion, is what I tell people on a scale of 1 to 10. Your first few hard sets should maybe feel like a 7. Now, what happens is because we have those really short periods of rest, you're not going to fully recover in between each hard set. So the first 3, maybe I'm shooting for a 7. The next 3 should maybe feel more like an 8. The next 3 should feel like a 9. And then my last one should feel like a 10, like I'm going as hard as possible and couldn't go any longer. So if I kind of follow that scale, that helps me manage and stay the right intensity through the whole thing. Now, with time, you do adapt really fast to HIIT training. You only need to do it 2-3 days a week, but the body adjusts really quick. The reason for that, we're really putting a shock on the system. We're driving adaptation, we're driving metabolism, and the body says, oh, shoot, if we're going to do that again, I got to adapt. So the body adapts really quickly. And so one thing we started doing is how do we then adjust this so it's always a true high intensity? So something you can do on your very last set, give yourself a challenge and say, okay, how long can I hold this high intensity? So whether you're power walking, jogging, swimming, biking, whatever it is, that last set, go as long as you can. If you can go for longer than about 75 seconds, it's probably in time to increase your intensity a little bit. If you don't go longer than 75 seconds, you can still only do about a minute. You're probably at a good spot. You were able to hold a high intensity through that whole protocol. So again, start at 7s, work to 8s, 9s, 10s, max it out. Throughout the whole thing, though, it should feel pretty hard. You should be breathing heavy. You shouldn't really be able to hold a conversation. You should be sweating. Heart rate should be up. All of those types of things.
I really like what you said, Katie, about your using the 1 to 10 scale and having the first sets be a 7 and then an 8 and then a 9 and then a 10. I've never actually heard it explained that way before, and that's really smart. I like it. I'm gonna integrate it. So
Good.
I just want to make sure that I don't want to put words in your mouth, but here's what I think I heard. If we are a firefighter and we find out that our VO2 max is inadequate, we can start pretty simple. If we're maybe not in great shape, we can start pretty simple with some walking. We can progress to something a little bit more challenging, whether that be jogging or doing the stairs or something like that. And then we can really drive improvements in our VO2 max when we're ready with that HIIT training. Is that a good summary?
That is correct. Absolutely. And, just to add some science with that, the amount of change in VO2 that we see with 2 and 3 days a week of HIIT training is the same change in VO2 that we see with traditional aerobic training. So what I tell people with that means you can do either modality of exercise. So if you really dislike HIIT, go do the steady training. If you really dislike steady training, go do some HIIT training. You're going to get the same end result. It's just what can we be consistent with. HIIT's also just a little more time efficient. And so a lot of us are battling time and can't always go run for 30, 45 minutes every single day. So if I can do HIIT 2 days a week and still improve my VO2, that seems like a win.